Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and in this one, I want to discuss exactly why I think Battlefield 6 absolutely needs to have a locked class weapon system. We haven't really discussed this all too much since the beta took place, but I think it's time to talk about it, and a recent example that has been leaked out of Battlefield Labs, I think perfectly illustrates just why an open weapon system could be, well, potentially game-breaking really. So as always, if you guys enjoy the content on the channel, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with everything around Battlefield 6. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support. You've been very generous with your time and with me here on the channel, so thank you guys all so much for that. So as I mentioned, there is a new example of just why this is crazy broken to have open weapons in BF6 that has come out of Battlefield Labs. And I'm going to link you guys up down below in the description, both to Reddit and to an X video. Unfortunately, I can't show you live in the video because it is leaked, it is under NDA, and I don't want the video to get taken down. But I really implore you to go and take a look at it to see exactly what I'm talking about here. But what we see in this video is two players on Operation Firestorm, and they've gotten up into one of the high towers, one of the sniper towers in the map. But of course we have open weapons, right? And so one of them is playing as support with a sniper rifle. He throws down an ammo bag, and then he's also got some sort of an APS gadget that is going to block incoming grenades, it's going to block incoming missiles, and then the other player is playing as an engineer with two launchers, no less, and once again, a sniper rifle. And what we see these guys doing is basically the engineer is sniping with the MBT law, it looks like, and the javelin. He's locking on to vehicles, and then in the downtime between killing the vehicles, he's also able to snipe infantry. And then of course we have the support player doing the same thing, only he's resupplying the both of them with endless ammunition for the snipers, endless launcher ammunition for the engineer, and of course these endless APS gadgets that are protecting them from probably one of the only ways they could die, which is being strafed by a jet or maybe even helicopter. And I just feel like you really cannot find a more perfect example of how the open class system, the open weapon system, can just be completely broken and abused in the game. If we imagine for a moment that we had a closed weapon system here where these players would not be able to equip sniper rifles, sure, they would be able to get up into that sniper's nest and they would be able to use the same gadgets, and the support would of course be able to resupply the engineer, but during the downtime between killing the vehicles, they would most likely get bored because they wouldn't be able to do anything, right? They wouldn't have the sniper rifles and they would most likely abandon that perch. They would leap down from there just, due to sheer boredom. Now, I think we all saw in the beta that DICE are obviously trying their best to back their open weapons system, right? That's what they want to go with in the game, more so than the closed weapons, possibly due to the newer players coming into the game. Of course, with Battlefield 6, they want to go after as many players as possible. They want to hit that 100 million player goal, as we've heard from EA, or at least it's been rumored that that's what EA is after. And that means looking outside of the regular Battlefield crowd. And maybe those people just won't really mesh well with a closed weapon system. Whatever games they're coming from, they're not used to closed weapons. But I really think DICE need to take a look at this again and just think, wouldn't those players simply get used to a closed system? So if you remember, this sort of all started when DICE put out that blog post many months ago now, I think it's been, where they detailed the class system and that they were going to be going with this open system and instead relying on the gadgets to make the classes unique, and instead incentivizing people to use the correct weapons by giving these weapons synergy traits. And since that's happened, DICE have sort of gone a long way to meet amends with us, right? To try and appease us who want the closed weapons by adding playlists into Battlefield 6. But as we all saw from the open beta, those playlists, a lot of the time, they were sort of hidden. They were very much pushed off to the side, like the abandoned child that nobody wanted. And once people complained about this, then they moved them sort of front and center. And then we've also seen from Portal that one of the filters in there is going to allow you to search experiences, as they call them, by looking for those with closed weapons. And I don't know, it just sort of feels like once DICE is saying, oh guys, if you want to play with closed weapons, you're welcome to do that. It certainly feels to me like it just isn't going to be front and center. And what DICE really want is for everybody to play with the open weapon system. They're probably going to throw in some playlists, so like we see in Battlefield 2042, every week there are new playlists that DICE tend to concoct some of them with community experiences, some with experiences, or most with experiences that they have made themselves. And each week, they rotate some in and they rotate some out. So occasionally, what I think we'll see is like some closed weapon experiences, but most of the time, they're going to be open. And then what they will say to you is, if you want to play with closed weapons, you can just go and make a Portal experience. So personally, as you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of the way that's going. I really just think they should do it the other way around, and they should lock the weapons down and say, if you want to play with open weapons, then you can go in Portal and you can create your own experience, and you can sort of, change the Battlefield formula in that way and do your own thing. And I want to give you guys, after having played the beta now for like substantial amount of hours. I'm not sure how much I put in there, but I played both of the weekends. Every single day I played for multiple hours, and I had a couple of takeaways after having played both the open weapons and the closed weapons. And the major one is that with open weapons, it made all of the classes quite boring. I just found that I would run the same gun around on all of the classes once I figured out basically that the NVO, the assault rifle, was like pretty much the best gun in the game. I saw little reason not to use that on all of the classes, and this very strong homogenization of the classes then began to take over, and it just became very samey. So I would run the Recon with the NVO because the Recon was kind of overpowered because of its spotting ability. You literally just look in the general direction of an enemy soldier and they become spotted. I would run it on the Engineer whenever I needed to take out tanks, and it just felt like Battlefield 2042 all over again, where generally speaking, I will just run one of the better weapons in the game, like the PP29 or the VHX, and I will just plaster that same loadout across all of the classes, simply because I can, right? Now, DICE's way of combating this in the open weapon system is these synergy abilities, and my main worry with the synergy abilities is that they were going to be just like in Battlefield 2042, where they weren't really strong enough to actually matter or to incentivize you or encourage you to pick the corresponding weapon for the right class. And this is where I would love to hear your guys' input on the matter. I did not think about synergy abilities for weapons at all in Battlefield 6. Like, they just seemed really unimpactful for all of the different weapons. I couldn't even tell you, to be honest, what the synergy ability is for using like an assault rifle on the assault class or using the LMG on the support class. And the reason for that is because I didn't notice them. If I use an assault rifle on the assault class and then I switch to the support class or the recon class with the assault rifle, I didn't feel like I was receiving any sort of a deficit for not using the correct weapon on the correct class. And I also just think this is a bit of a convoluted way of doing it. If you're going to have these synergy traits for weapons that encourage people to pick that specific weapon on that specific class, then why not just lock the weapons to begin with? Like, I really do just find it somewhat bewildering why they're pushing so strongly for this not to happen, but at the same time, they're trying to please us, they're trying to make amends, and it's like, but they're putting in this like half measure. They must have some incredibly powerful data at DICE and EA that says that open weapons is the way to go, and that's going to lead to a bigger, like, healthier player base. But I just don't see it. I really think that new players coming in will just get used to a closed weapon system. And I just don't really see many of the drawbacks to closed weapons either, because you can go for a hybrid system like we see in Battlefield 4. And in fact, that is what I would personally like to see. I'd like to see the carbines and the DMRs and the shotguns remain open. If you don't like that system because maybe you want to run like an SMG on the assault class, another way of doing it then could be perhaps to give the carbines as the class weapon to the engineers, and then you could have the SMGs instead as the open weapon. And in that case, if you would like to play some sort of an aggressive recon role, well, now you've got recon with an SMG instead of with a carbine. I also think that locking shotguns to the assault class may be the way to go. That would give them a little bit more uniqueness, I would say, a little bit more value, because they lost a lot of that, it feels like, in Battlefield 6. And I know what people are going to say in the comments. They're going to say, oh, well, it's all about being able to identify the class, and if you have a hybrid system and carbines are open or SMGs are open, then that whole like readability thing goes out the window. But for me, it's not really about readability. I'm going to be frank with you guys. When I was playing against people in Battlefield 6 and I came up against an enemy, I couldn't tell if it was assault, support, recon. Like, I just saw somebody, I was like, that's an enemy, and I shot them and I killed them, and that's all there was to it. For me, it's more about the weapon and the class combinations. And I think showcased in this clip here is the strongest of them all. It's being able to use a sniper rifle on any class. A sniper rifle with the various gadgets that the engineer gets, the various gadgets that the support class get, is just too powerful. And at the least, I would like to see DICE lock the snipers, the bolt action sniper rifles, to the recon class. Even if they keep everything else open, I still think that is going to be a step in the right direction. But I would love to hear what you guys think on this. You know, what is your take? Would you like just a fully locked system with no hybrid system, like no open weapons whatsoever? Would you like a hybrid system like the one I outlined, like we've seen in games like Battlefield 4? Or would you just like to see sniper rifles locked to the recon class, or maybe not at all? Maybe you were one of the people who really liked the open weapon system. Whatever the case may be, leave me your thoughts down below. Let me know, would you like a closed or an open weapon system in BF6? Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed today's video or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and I will see you guys in the next one.